Have you ever looked at something broken, discarded, or forgotten, and wondered if it still had a story left to tell? This fall, our gardens are about to change forever. Imagine stepping into a backyard where trash transforms into treasure, where fairy lanterns glow, and where every corner whispers magic. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration. In today's video, magical Fall Fairy Garden Makeover, 17 plus trash to treasure creations you'll want for your backyard and front yard. We'll explore enchanting upcycling ideas designed to turn the ordinary into extraordinary. This video is packed with inspiration and comes with timestamps so you can jump directly to the creations you love most. If you have questions or thoughts, please share them in the comments. And if something sparks your imagination, take it, shape it, and make it your own. Maybe to you, I'm just another voice on a screen. But behind this channel is a family, a dream, and a story. When you subscribe, you're not just clicking a button, you're keeping that dream alive, one idea at a time. Thank you for being here, and thank you for seeing me. In the gentle hush of twilight, when the garden begins to hum with its own quiet rhythm, a soft glow stirs among the flowers. Glass jars, once plain and forgotten, used for storing pickles or preserves, now hold tiny flames that flicker with life. Their painted skins of amber, lilac, and mint catch the light in ways that feel almost magical, sending ripples of warmth across petals of chrysanthemums and asters standing nearby. These fairy candle holders tell a story not of perfection, but of transformation. Their surfaces were pressed leaves like stained glass windows, capturing nature's fingerprints in patterns both delicate and enduring. Hung from branches of an old oak or lined carefully along a grassy pathway, they cast pools of golden shimmer that guide footsteps with a sense of wonder, as though one might stumble upon a hidden fairy ring just beyond the bend. Each jar is unique, some cradle silhouettes of dancing fairies cut from thin paper, their wings alive in the trembling glow. Others are brushed with soft strokes of color, coral pink and lavender, reminding the eyes of summer's embrace even in autumn's cool air. They invite the imagination to wander, to believe in small worlds unseen, where light is not only illumination but also enchantment. Children pause in their play, captivated by the tiny lanterns glowing at eye level. Adults lean in closer, noticing how a jar painted with wildflower motifs mirrors the blossoms planted at its base. The garden itself seems to respond, the lavender releasing its fragrance more boldly, the marigolds tilting slightly toward the soft radiance. As the evening deepens, these upcycled jars do more than brighten a backyard. They weave memory into the air. They remind us that beauty is often hidden in what we overlook, waiting for a second chance to shine. In their glow, warmth lingers, stories unfold, and the garden hums softly with both nostalgia and new beginnings. At the edge of the garden, where shadows stretch long in the fading light, something unexpected rises from the flower beds. Not castles built of stone, nor cottages made of brick, but fairy houses with helmets for roofs, domes once worn for speed now reborn for stillness. Their curves gleam beneath coats of fresh paint, one in pastel blue, calm and airy, another in sunflower yellow, glowing like bottled sunlight, a third in lavender, soft as twilight's sigh. The helmets, once scarred by scratches, now carry a second story. They arch gracefully above small wooden walls, forming snug havens tucked between clusters of chrysanthemums and asters. Vines climb up their sides, weaving crowns of green that soften the edges and blur the line between man-made and nature's hand. In the evening, when the air grows cool, these roofs seem to hold in warmth, as though little fires might flicker inside, keeping invisible fairy dwellers safe. A child bends down, pressing their face close, searching for the imagined inhabitants. Adults smile, amused by the playful illusion, but they, too, cannot resist the urge to look twice. There is charm in the absurdity, helmets, symbols of travel and motion, now guarding tiny homes that never move. And yet, the contrast makes them beautiful, reminders that every object, no matter how ordinary or worn, carries within it the potential for reinvention. Around the fairy houses, marigolds release their peppery scent, lavender sways gently with the breeze, and sedum autumn joy bursts in muted shades of rose. The scene feels alive, more than decoration. It is a whisper that creativity knows no boundaries, that even what once seemed broken can glow with new life. As twilight deepens, the fairy village gleams like a secret revealed only to those willing to see with childlike wonder. The helmets stand proudly, no longer relics of the past, but guardians of small magic in a garden forever changed. Step into the garden, and the ground beneath your feet begins to tell a story. It is not paved with stone or marble, but with bottle caps, each one once twisted open with casual hands, now given purpose in a pattern of color and rhythm. The pathway winds gently through chrysanthemums and asters, its surface alive with spirals, stars, and blossoms formed from thousands of tiny circles. Some caps shine with their original hues, emerald green from soda, sapphire blue from water, deep burgundy from old wine. Others wear coats of fresh paint, amber like autumn leaves, coral pink like fading sunsets, sunflower yellow bright against the grass. Together, they create a mosaic that is both humble and astonishing, a reminder that art often grows from what we thought to discard. Walking barefoot along this path, the texture is uneven but comforting, a tactile journey through memory. Each cap carries a past moment, laughter at a picnic, clinking glasses on a summer night, the small rituals of daily life. Now, underfoot, they guide steps toward hidden corners of the backyard, to a bench beneath lavender, to a nook where sedum autumn joy leans heavy with late blossoms. Children run their hands along the designs, tracing spirals with delight. Guests pause to marvel, bending low to guess how many hundreds, perhaps thousands, of caps were needed to complete such a vision. In truth, the number matters less than the intention, a patient hand collecting, arranging, pressing each piece into place until the path itself became a garden within the garden. As the evening light softens, shadows slip between the patterns, making the pathway seem alive. The caps catch the glow in tiny flashes, like stars flickering on the earth. And in that shimmer lies a promise, that beauty need not be costly nor fleeting, but can emerge from the simplest of things, if only we choose to see with eyes that honor both past and possibility. In the soft light of afternoon, the garden shimmers with blooms, but not all of them grow from soil. Rising among the marigolds and chrysanthemums stand flowers of another kind, petals crafted from broken plates, once chipped and forgotten, now reborn as art. Each stake carries a fragment of story, a shard of memory from kitchens and dining rooms, transformed into a blossom that will never fade. The edges, once sharp and dangerous, have been carefully softened, smoothed into gentle curves. Some petals retain the delicate blue patterns of porcelain, others gleam under fresh coats of coral, amber, and mint, painted to echo autumn's colors. When sunlight strikes their glazed surfaces, they glint like stained glass, scattering flecks of brightness across the beds of asters and sedum below. These flower stakes do not wither with the season. They stand proud through rain and wind, companions to the living blooms. Where chrysanthemums close with the cold, the porcelain petals remain open, frozen in perpetual bloom. Children reach out in wonder, tracing their fingers along painted lines of fairy wings or leaf motifs. Guests laugh with delight, surprised to see something so familiar and ordinary, a plate, made extraordinary with a simple act of imagination. There is something grounding in these creations. They remind us that beauty does not only sprout from seed or sun, but also from the fragments we once cast aside. A dish that carried meals now carries color, a shard that might have cut is now reshaped into something gentle. The garden accepts them wholly, blending clay and ceramic with stem and leaf until boundaries blur. As twilight comes, the stakes catch the last rays of fading light. They gleam beside the lavender and cosmos, a quiet chorus of blooms that whisper resilience. The broken becomes whole, not in the way it once was, but in a way more fitting for now, a flower eternal, a memory standing tall in the garden's embrace. At the entrance of the garden, standing proud like sentinels of another era, are milk cans, once sturdy vessels of the farm, now brimming with flowers instead of cream. Their iron bodies, heavy with history, wear coats of new paint, lavender softened by sunlight, sage green that blends with ivy's climb, sunflower yellow that gleams against stone. Though their original purpose has passed, their presence feels timeless, a bridge between labor and leisure, between function and beauty. Each can hold a cascade of color. Marigolds spill over the rim, their orange petals glowing like tiny suns. Chrysanthemums, clustered thickly, bring both cheer and solemnity, their blooms echoing autumn's rhythm. Sedum autumn joy blushes in muted pink, while ivy tumbles freely, softening the edges and weaving nature's hand into metal's frame. Together, they transform the milk can from relic to centerpiece, humble yet arresting. Placed along a cobblestone path or beneath the shade of a weathered oak, these planters invite pause. Guests lean in to admire the floral abundance, surprised at how seamlessly industrial strength can cradle fragile life. Children tap the sides with curious fingers, the metallic echo reminding them that these objects were once tools of work, not art. Yet here they stand, glowing in the garden, proof that transformation requires not perfection, but vision. In twilight, as lavender perfumes the air and cosmos bow under evening dew, the milk cans appear almost sculptural. Their round bellies catch the last gold of the sun, while their painted surfaces reflect soft shadows. They do not disguise their age, a dent here, a ridge there, but wear it proudly, lending character to their new roles. These planters tell us that beauty is not always born anew. Sometimes it emerges from what remains, reshaped and honored. They embody the poetry of the garden, resilience, reinvention, and the quiet grace of giving life a second chance. In the heart of the garden, where the air carries both the crispness of autumn and the faint perfume of lavender, spheres begin to shimmer. At first glance, they seem like jewels scattered carelessly by giants, their surfaces alive with color. Step closer, and the illusion reveals itself. These radiant orbs are made not of gemstones, but of broken CDs, fragments once spinning with songs, now catching sunlight in a symphony of light. Each shard glitters with shifting hues, violet bleeding into aqua, emerald flowing into rose, gold flashing bright before fading into silver. When the sun moves, so does the performance, scattering rainbows across marigold petals and painting asters with glimmers of blue. Even under overcast skies, the orbs retain their magic, catching the faintest light and multiplying it into brilliance. Set upon mossy pedestals or nestled low among sedum autumn joy, the orbs feel otherworldly. They reflect not only color but also motion, a child's laughter, the flutter of a butterfly, the sway of chrysanthemums in the breeze. The garden becomes a gallery of shifting mirrors, where every angle offers a new surprise. Yet there is more than spectacle here. These orbs embody the alchemy of reinvention. A CD, scratched and useless to its original task, would normally fade into obscurity. But in the garden, cut and arranged with patience, it transforms into something far greater than itself, a vessel for light, a conjurer of wonder. Guests pause in admiration, running their fingers lightly across the smooth yet fractured surface, marveling at how something broken can reflect so much beauty. As twilight deepens, the orbs take on a quieter magic. They no longer scatter rainbow brilliance but hold faint glows of the fading sky, soft reflections of lavender and cosmos bowing to the evening air. They remind us that beauty is not only in what endures perfectly but also in what reclaims its place through transformation. Here in the garden, the reflective orbs shine as beacons of resilience, fragments woven into wholeness, carrying light long after the music has stopped. In the quiet corners of the backyard, where flowers lean eagerly toward the sun, slender frames rise like secret ladders for the plants. They are not crafted from wood or iron but from the simplest of things, wire hangers, reshaped with patient hands into trellises for vines to climb. Their lines are modest, yet they carry the same elegance as cathedral arches, guiding greenery skyward. Painted in hues of sage green or soft cream, the trellises blend gently into the garden. Ivy twines upward, its tendrils curling around the metal with quiet determination. Morning glories unfurl their trumpet blooms, glowing violet and sky blue against the wire. In autumn, sweet peas add bursts of color, while Japanese anemones flutter like white butterflies around the frame. Each plant seems grateful for the support, rising taller, fuller, more radiant than it might have otherwise. Children laugh at the idea of coat hangers living a second life outdoors. Adults, too, are surprised at the transformation, from forgotten clutter at the back of closets into elegant scaffolds for life. The trellises are lightweight yet resilient, holding firmly even as wind whispers through chrysanthemums and sedum nearby. They stand not as grand constructions but as humble companions, quietly making space for beauty to thrive. At dusk, fairy lights twinkle around the arcs of bent wire, weaving starlight into their curves. The glow makes the trellises feel enchanted, as if leading to another world tucked just beyond the garden's edge. Guests linger, caught between wonder and nostalgia, reminded that creativity often arises from the overlooked and ordinary. The beauty of these trellises lies not in their perfection but in their purpose. They lift, they support, they transform emptiness into possibility. A simple hanger, once burdened by shirts and jackets, now bears the weight of blossoms and dreams. And in this act of upcycling, the garden itself whispers its truth, that nothing is too small, too plain, or too forgotten to become part of the magic of growth. In a corner of the garden where imagination roams freely, strange and wonderful figures emerge. They are not carved from marble or cast in bronze, but pieced together from forgotten toys, fragments of childhood reborn as sculptures. Tiny wheels, colorful blocks, and even the curved frame of a plastic dinosaur find new purpose here, each piece stitched into a tapestry of play and wonder. Painted in autumn hues, deep crimson, bright gold, soft teal, the sculptures stand among chrysanthemums and marigolds, their vibrant colors echoing the blooms around them. One figure resembles a bird, wings spread from plastic spoons and toy car doors. Another, shaped like a butterfly, flutters with shards of doll's wings and beads that glimmer like jewels. Others are abstract, curious forms that seem both familiar and alien, drawing smiles from every visitor who pauses to guess what they once were. Children laugh first, recognizing fragments from toys like those they may have played with. Adults, at first amused, find themselves caught by nostalgia, reminded of childhood afternoons when imagination transformed ordinary objects into fantastical worlds. Here, that same spirit lives again, only this time, the creations stand rooted in soil, glowing under the autumn light. The sculptures do not pretend to be perfect. Their surfaces bear scratches, their shapes a patchwork of odd connections. Yet it is precisely this imperfection that gives them life. The garden accepts them as it does all things, weaving them into the tapestry of blooms, letting ivy curl around their bases, allowing lavender to brush against their sides in the wind. At twilight, fairy lights strung above cast gentle glimmers upon the toy-born creatures. Shadows dance, making the sculptures appear to move, to breathe, to whisper their stories. They remind all who pass that joy can be reclaimed, that discarded things still hold laughter, that play does not vanish but merely changes form. In the hush of the evening garden, these whimsical figures stand as monuments not to what was lost, but to what can be rediscovered, magic hidden in fragments, and wonder waiting in the unexpected. In the garden, where laughter and memory intertwine, shoes long past their walking days now carry something new. Once worn to school, to work, to adventures across wet sidewalks and dusty roads, they now stand quietly, rooted in soil rather than journeys. From their leather creases and fabric folds spill chrysanthemums, bright, unyielding bursts of orange, yellow, and deep red that proclaim autumn's arrival. The boots, scuffed and weathered, wear their age like a story. Their laces dangle loosely, no longer pulling tight around ankles but instead framing petals as they cascade outward. Sneakers, painted in playful pastels, hold trailing ivy that tumbles gracefully toward cobblestones, blending whimsy with nature's hand. Along the pathway, mismatched pairs line up like old friends reunited, each with its own bloom and personality. Children find them enchanting, giggling at the idea of shoes that sprout flowers instead of footprints. Guests pause, bending low to admire how something so ordinary, so often discarded, can become a vessel for beauty. The shoes do not hide their imperfections: a hole at the toe, a crack in the sole, frayed stitches along the edge. Yet the chrysanthemums bloom with defiance, transforming flaws into frames for color. The effect is more than decorative, it is deeply symbolic. These planters remind us that every step taken leaves behind echoes, and even when journeys end, there are new paths waiting. A boot once trudging through mud now cradles marigolds. A sneaker once racing across playgrounds now nurses lavender. A shoe that might have been forgotten now whispers with blossoms, its story continued in the language of petals. As twilight falls, the shoes glow softly in the garden's fading light. Fairy lights twinkle above, catching on dew-kissed mums and trailing ivy. The air smells of lavender and damp earth, a promise of renewal even in the season of fading leaves. And in that quiet, the shoes stand still, not in silence, but in bloom, guardians of both memory and transformation. At the edge of the pathway, where grass gives way to cobblestone, an arch rises, not of wrought iron nor carved wood, but of bicycle tires, curved and bound together in graceful loops. Once spinning through streets, carrying riders on countless journeys, these tires now stand still, their motion exchanged for permanence, their purpose reborn as a gate into wonder. Painted in soft pastels, mint, lavender, coral, the arch glows gently against the backdrop of chrysanthemums and marigolds that climb its frame. Ivy winds upward with ease, weaving green ribbons through the black curves, softening their strength into elegance. In autumn light, asters peek through the gaps, their starry blooms shimmering as if blessing each traveler who steps beneath. Children pass under the arch laughing, imagining it as a portal to a hidden fairy kingdom. Guests pause, touched by the whimsy, surprised by the transformation of something so practical into something so dreamlike. The tires, once scarred with scratches from long rides, now cradle blossoms and fairy lights. Their circles, symbols of movement, have become symbols of welcome, an embrace at the garden's threshold. In the cool of evening, the arch grows more magical. Strings of fairy lights woven through its curves awaken, glowing like captured stars. Shadows lengthen, and the arch casts a halo of light upon the pathway. Beyond it, lavender and Japanese anemones nod in the breeze, as though bowing to those who enter. The arch is not grand in scale, but it holds a grandeur of spirit. It tells a story of journeys ended and journeys yet to begin, of wheels that once turned fast but now stand eternal, framing the garden with grace. To pass under it is to be reminded that beauty can be born from stillness, and that even what once carried us forward can still lead us to places of wonder. Here, The bicycle tire arch is not just an entrance, it is an invitation to pause, to dream, and to step into a world where imagination thrives. On a wooden table at the heart of the garden, small glass worlds shimmer to life. Mason jars, once filled with jams and pickles, now cradle entire universes, fairy terrariums glowing with quiet enchantment. Each jar is a window into imagination, moss-forming rolling hills, pebbles stacked into tiny cottages, and fragments of twigs twisted into miniature fences. With a flicker of warm LED light, the scenes glow as if touched by magic. From a distance, they appear as lanterns, but lean closer and the details emerge. A patch of green moss stands like a meadow where a fairy might rest. A shard of broken ceramic becomes the roof of a house, while dried flowers mimic a blooming field frozen in perpetual spring. Children peer into the jars wide-eyed, searching for the tiny inhabitants they believe must be hiding just beyond sight. Adults, too, are drawn in, their reflections caught in the curved glass as though momentarily transported inside. Hung from tree branches, the jars sway gently, scattering soft circles of light across chrysanthemums and asters planted below. The terrariums bring not only charm but also intimacy, casting the garden in a glow that feels both delicate and eternal. They are small, yet infinite, containers of memory, imagination, and hope. What makes them extraordinary is their humility. These are not grand sculptures or towering structures, but ordinary jars given a second chance. Their clarity becomes a canvas, their emptiness, a stage for worlds waiting to be built. The terrariums remind us that wonder often hides in the overlooked, and that light shines brightest when it is cradled by simplicity. As evening deepens, the jars glow brighter, transforming the backyard into a constellation of little galaxies. Ivy twines around their strings, Japanese anemones nod in the twilight air, and the garden hums with a new softness. Within each jar, a silent story unfolds, waiting for those who are willing to pause, to peer, and to believe. Here, in the stillness of night, the mason jars do not merely hold terrariums, they hold the essence of magic itself, bottled gently for anyone willing to dream. From the branches of the old maple tree, gentle movements draw the eye. Birds flutter down in quick arcs, their wings catching the afternoon light, before landing gracefully on something unexpected, detergent jugs, repurposed into feeders that now swing lightly in the breeze. Once carriers of soap and water, these jugs now carry seed, gifts to the winged guests of the garden. Painted in warm autumn hues of amber, teal, and sunflower yellow, the feeders look like ornaments scattered through the branches. Hand-painted patterns, curling vines, bright daisies, and tiny stars dance across their plastic surfaces, turning the ordinary into art. Small openings cut into the sides allow sparrows and finches to perch, dipping their beaks into the treasure within. Around the feeders, chrysanthemums nod their golden heads, while asters shimmer with violet tones. Sedum autumn joy leans heavy with color, creating a tapestry of blooms beneath the fluttering wings. The garden, already alive with flowers, now hums with the quick, sharp calls of birds, their presence adding both sound and motion to the scene. Children watch in delight, hushed so as not to scare away the visitors. Adults smile at the cleverness of it, an object that might have been discarded now made central to the life of the garden. The feeders are not polished or perfect, but they do not need to be. Their beauty lies in function, in the quiet invitation they extend to nature itself. As evening descends, the jugs glow faintly under fairy lights strung above. Birds retreat to their nests, but the feeders remain like lanterns, gentle reminders of the day's gatherings. They speak of balance, between use and reuse, between giving and receiving. In the hush of twilight, when the garden holds its breath, the feeders swing softly, waiting for morning's chorus to return. They remind us that generosity, even in small acts, can transform not only objects but also spaces, turning plastic waste into havens of life, and gardens into sanctuaries shared with feathered friends. When the autumn wind sweeps softly through the garden, it carries with it more than the scent of chrysanthemums and lavender. Across the pathways, small banners sway, catching the breeze like whispered prayers. They are garden flags, not store-bought or uniform, but handmade from scraps of fabric that once lived other lives. Old towels, worn pillowcases, faded bedsheets, each has been cut and shaped into pennants, painted with playful motifs of stars, leaves, and flowers. Dyed in shades of rust, mustard, and cranberry, they echo the tones of autumn, blending perfectly with the marigolds below and the asters swaying nearby. Their edges are frayed, their patterns imperfect, yet the beauty lies in this imperfection, a reminder that the garden, too, thrives in diversity. When sunlight touches the flags, they glow softly, their colors deepened against the sky. They flutter above the cobblestones, marking the path as though guiding footsteps toward something sacred. At night, when fairy lights flicker nearby, the fabric becomes luminous, dancing like fireflies in the breeze. Children run beneath them, giggling as the cloth brushes against their hair. Adults pause, a smile tugging at their lips as they recognize a piece of fabric that reminds them of a grandmother's apron, a kitchen towel, or a childhood quilt. These flags are not merely decoration, they are memory reborn, stitched into the rhythm of the seasons. Around them, sedum autumn joy blushes in muted pink, lavender perfumes the air, and Japanese anemones bow gently under their weight of white blooms. The flags, moving in harmony with the plants, seem alive, part of the garden's own heartbeat. They do not stand rigid or still, instead, they move, they respond, they speak in the language of wind. They remind us that beauty need not be fixed or flawless, sometimes it is found in what shifts and sways, in what carries the imprint of life lived before. As dusk falls, the flags ripple softly, marking not only space but also time. Yesterday's fabrics turned into today's joy, fluttering against tomorrow's breeze. Against the garden fence, something unexpected catches the eye. Frames, once protectors of family portraits and painted landscapes, now cradle life itself. Their corners may be cracked, their glass long gone, yet within their borders blossoms thrive, turning emptiness into art. These broken frames, lifted from obscurity, have become plant holders, windows into a garden that refuses to waste even a fragment. One frame, painted in sage green, holds a cluster of chrysanthemums, their golden petals spilling outward as though breaking free from the wooden edges. Another, adorned with strands of moss, glows softly with fairy lights wrapped around its weathered borders. A third frames lavender stems swaying gently, their purple blooms creating a living painting against the backdrop of the sky. Arranged along fences and walls, the frames transform blank spaces into galleries of growth. They elevate simple plants into portraits, each one unique, each one alive. Guests wander by, pausing as if in a museum, but instead of oil or canvas they find soil and bloom. Children giggle at the magic of it, pointing out flowers, trapped inside frames that, paradoxically, set them free. The beauty of these holders lies in their imperfection. Chipped corners, faded paint, scratches across the wood, all add character, each mark telling its own story. Yet it is the plants that complete them, weaving new tales into old scars. Marigolds glow like captured sunlight, asters twinkle like painted stars, while sedum autumn joy leans heavy with soft blush, spilling gently beyond the borders. As twilight falls, the frames shift again. Fairy lights flicker along their edges, giving the illusion that the plants themselves are painted with light. Japanese anemones nod in the background, and cosmos sway, their petals glowing in the last breath of sunset. What once displayed stillness now frames life in constant motion. In these broken frames, beauty is not bound by perfection, but by presence, living art that changes with the seasons, whispering softly of resilience, reinvention, and the quiet grace of gardens that honor the forgotten. Along the weathered fence, color bursts from the most unexpected vessels. Old flip-flops, once tossed aside after summers at the beach or afternoons in the backyard, now cling to the wall, reborn as tiny planters. Their soles, faded and scuffed, hold pockets of soil where flowers bloom as though sprouting from forgotten footsteps. Painted in cheerful tones, pastel pink, mint, mustard, and cranberry, the flip-flops become frames for color. Marigolds spill bright petals from one, asters scatter their starry blossoms from another, while ivy trails elegantly, softening the lines. Some pairs hang together like companions, others stand alone, whimsical statements of transformation. Children laugh at the sight, delighted that shoes made for play now cradle blossoms instead of toes. Adults pause, charmed by the cleverness and the humor, yet struck also by the unexpected beauty. Against the wood and stone of the garden walls, the planters look like living mosaics, playful bursts of life that brighten corners usually left bare. With each bloom, the flip-flops tell a story of reinvention. Once symbols of leisure, worn thin by countless steps, they now carry life forward in a different way. They are humble, imperfect, and joyful, exactly the qualities that make them belong so naturally in a cottage garden. Chrysanthemums lean gently from their soles, lavender perfumes the air nearby, and Japanese anemones sway as though bowing to their playful neighbors. As the evening light softens, the flip-flops glow beneath strings of fairy lights overhead. Shadows ripple across the wall, turning the colorful planters into an art piece, whimsical yet deeply human. Their mismatched shapes and sizes do not clash, but harmonize, creating a rhythm of life that feels spontaneous, alive, and sincere. The garden, with its flip-flop wall planters, becomes more than a place of flowers. It becomes a reminder that even what has walked its path, worn and weary, can find another journey waiting. That joy can grow from what seems small, even silly, if only we give it space to bloom. Here, the forgotten is remembered, The worn is renewed, and the garden laughs softly with every flutter of petals born from a flip-flop's embrace. In the golden stillness of an autumn afternoon, the garden hums with delicate wings. Butterflies, drawn by sweetness, gather not on flowers alone but on curious objects reimagined, broken rackets, their strings gone or sagging, now transformed into feeders offering slices of fruit. Where once they carried the rhythm of play, they now carry the rhythm of life. An old tennis racket rests low among chrysanthemums, its frame cradling bright orange slices glistening with juice. Above it, a badminton racket hangs from a fence, painted crimson and gold, holding grapes and apple halves. Butterflies drift down, their wings opening and closing in quiet choreography as they sip. Nearby, marigolds scatter bursts of orange, asters glow in violet, and sedum autumn joy blushes pink in the fading light. The rackets do not hide their history. Their grips are worn, their frames dented, but these imperfections only add character. Once symbols of competition, they now serve as symbols of generosity, offering sustenance to fragile creatures that bring life to the garden. Guests lean closer, enchanted by the sight of delicate wings resting on the same tools once swung in play. Children point in wonder, whispering so as not to disturb the feast. There is a poetry in the transformation. The rackets, built for motion, now stand still. They have moved from games of speed to moments of patience, from echoing courts to blooming backyards. In this stillness, they discover a new kind of purpose, one that nurtures rather than entertains. As twilight deepens, the feeders glow softly under fairy lights strung along the fence. Butterflies retreat into the evening shadows, but the fruits remain, promising tomorrow's gathering. The rackets hang quietly, guardians of sweetness, reminders that joy is not only in what we keep whole but also in what we reshape with care. In the hush of the garden, the feeders whisper a gentle truth, that even what is broken can carry beauty, and even what is past its first purpose can still bring life to wings. Along the garden path, a small surprise waits, toy cars, no longer racing across living room floors or playground dirt, but carrying something new. Their wheels may be rusted, their paint chipped from years of play, yet nestled in their tiny compartments grow succulents, chrysanthemums, and trailing ivy. Once symbols of motion and childhood joy, they now stand still, becoming planters that cradle life in miniature. A metal truck, painted anew in teal and mustard, overflows with sedum autumn joy, its pink clusters spilling gently over the truck bed. Beside it, a worn red car holds a collection of tiny succulents, their geometric shapes gleaming with dew. An old yellow bus, its window scratched, bursts with lavender and cosmos, flowers leaning out as if passengers waving from its sides. Each vehicle tells a story, not only of play long past, but of transformation, of journeys that continue in unexpected ways. Children discover them first, delighted at the sight of toys growing gardens. They kneel close, tracing fingers along the plants, half expecting the wheels to roll forward again. Adults, drawn by nostalgia, smile at memories the toys awaken, while marveling at the cleverness of their new role. Against the cobblestones and picket fences, the cars look both whimsical and profound, turning forgotten fragments of youth into vessels of growth. The plants thrive in their small frames. Succulents sit comfortably in shallow compartments, resilient to the limits of space. Chrysanthemums lean proudly from open tops, their colors bright against chipped metal. Ivy trails freely, softening sharp edges and reminding the eye that even the most rigid forms can be made tender when touched by nature. As evening falls, fairy lights shimmer above, casting a glow that turns the toy cars into enchanted carriages, guardians of tiny blooms. The garden hums with a playful magic, as though time itself has bent, uniting childhood's joy with nature's grace. In their stillness, the toy cars carry a new kind of motion, not speed, but growth, not noise, but life. They remind us that even in what is small and overlooked, there lies the power to spark wonder and keep imagination alive. And there you have it, over 30 magical fall fairy garden ideas that prove beauty can be born from the simplest scraps. With just imagination and heart, trash can become treasure, and every corner of your yard can glow with whimsy. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who loves DIY garden magic, and leave a comment below. Tell me, which idea inspired you most, and what will you try in your own backyard? And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Every single click helps this channel grow, keeps the creativity alive, and gives this small family hope to keep sharing more beauty with you. Until next time, may your garden be filled with color, magic, and joy.